Hey guys, welcome to the Nick Bahe YouTube page. You know what you need to do. You need to subscribe, you need to ring the bell, you need to like the page, you need to leave a comment. I appreciate you. All right, well, it finally happened. Some people got hired. Ruud in the hizzy, Nicholas Allen Bahe in the hizzy. I guess, so Whipple, Raiola, Joseph, hired, did up, as my son screams from the top of the stairs. Did this play out in terms of a timeline? Because that felt like every day I played Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. Like,
the waiting is the hardest part.
Because I think when Frost made his moves, I kind of thought like Monday, Tuesday after Black Friday, like things would go. Maybe like USC and LSU's deal, like through a ripple.
I think
for Whipple,
the ripple for Whipple,
Whipple.
As it's been called across the country, the ripple for Whipple. I think the Brian Kelly to LSU thing at the last minute was the big kind of wrench into this, because
that affected Mickey Joseph.
The Mickey Joseph and the recruiting thing,
right? That's
a big chunk of, I think, what they wanted to get done just for the recruiting aspect. But your boy Whipple.
Oh,
I think they went on that probably right away. So, they made the coaching change in 2 weeks to go in the season. I got to think that there was feelers happening.
Oh, I bet they were.
Right. Because, this guy coached, a potential Heisman Trophy winner, and
he's not going to leave.
Yeah, and they just,
or whatever.
They just won the ACC, right?
Yes.
So they just win the ACC, and the next day he resigns. I mean, that tells you that, like,
there were things happening behind.
He didn't even have to think about it. Like, right. It was done, and he had to finish, and it was over. So it might have been done. So that's to me, I'm impressed that after the Steve Peterson debacle of like
30 some odd days.
Man,
that was Tom Petty waiting is the hardest part.
That was what I was worried about, right?
Right. Well, I think sometimes, like, this early signing period doesn't necessarily, not to totally throw away high school recruiting, but this early signing day scenario in December has sped up the whole carousel thing and hiring and firing and cycle of all this. But it's not as crucial for Nebraska because they're going to be more in the portal. And so for me, I was all nervous, like, oh my God, signing day's coming. You gotta go. And it's like, well, I mean, they're more dipping their toe in the portal than they are high school recruiting.
So the big narrative of the last 2 weeks,
give me the big narrative,
is that the portal, which is exploding, think whatever the record that was last year, it's not doubled, but it's close to, I mean, it's like there's that many more players in this portal. And the narrative is that it's making high school recruiting less important.
Yeah.
So there was a big article out about how quarterbacks now are having a hard time getting the same amount of offers because these coaches are recruiting the portal over the high school kid. Now, how much is that happening for all position groups? I mean, not probably as much as quarterbacks, but it's significant. So there's a flood of kids in this portal, and more than last year. I got to think there's going to be a lot of kids that are not going to find a home. So the high school recruits are still coming if you're good, but it's like now it's like there's either going to be a lot of high school kids left out or these portal kids
totally
left out. There's only so many chairs at the dance, and right now it's like somebody's getting left out.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it from a coaching perspective. Would you rather bring in a guy that is a junior that has been in college for 2 years that can play right away and he can't transfer again because he's already transferred? Or do you want to bring in little Timmy who just got his first kiss and still has a curfew?
We talk about little Timmy.
Yeah, and who could come in, he can't help you right away. He might transfer. So I get it that there's ramifications to this move, and some people in the portal might get left out, but it's going to hurt high school recruiting. But the reason I brought that up is because I was nervous every day, oh God, no news today. But then I was like, well, the early signing day doesn't matter as much.
No, I'm actually I'm more interested in our portal picks because, I mean, for me, it's like Samori Toure is a great example of how valuable the portal can be. I mean, with Kentucky, they got Wandale.
Right.
Like, let's be real. Like, if you're pulling guys like that, those are such better players than almost any 3-4 star guy you're going to get out of high school. I mean, maybe there's a 5-star guy but how many guys coming out of high school are going to be Toure? I would say almost none.
I would say basically none. I mean, that's the thing is how many 4- and 5-star guys come in and produce to the degree of Wandale Robinson, Samori Toure, Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
Like you just don't see it very much. So
I would say that, especially the Michigan State running back, you go, okay, like you got would you rather recruit that guy for 2 weeks or some other kid for 2 years?
Right.
Like I'd rather get to the boosters and be like, get this guy some NIL and I'm going in this week and we're selling hard. Like it's almost it's a different strategy. But I'd say there's probably there's a lot of guys in the portal that are in there for a reason and they're not good. But then the guys that are good,
right,
that are actually transferring, man, I'll tell you what, those guys are becoming a different kind of commodity. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you how stressed you were with that, because my range of emotions has definitely gone up and down because I was nervous about it. But then I thought, okay, well, I mean, really the timeline of this wasn't as important as I thought it was. You didn't want to wait. You didn't want to get into, get to Christmas and not have anybody hired. But at the same time, I don't think the delay was as big of a deal as they maybe thought.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy that we think if we didn't fire coaches 2 weeks out, and then, these coaches that just coached in these conference championship games, now they'd be the first time that these would even be available to start talking, so a guy like Whipple, who whips it good.
He whips
it.
You probably don't get, I don't know
maybe somebody else is on him versus my assumption is that we got on him pretty quick and this was a done deal, and now he's probably, after his quarterback wins and they win your status and your value goes up. So it probably helped us that we were on it quick before, these other job openings happen after the season that, I think we might've got to jump on it. I got to think this was the right move. When you get the guys you want, you can't say anything other than maybe this was the right way to do it.
Yeah. From a broad standpoint, Whipple, Joseph, and Raiola, we'll talk about all three individually. Yeah. Overall, I don't want to give it a grade. I don't know if would you give this an A?
I'm
if you're talking about the totality of it,
I don't think I can give it a grade. I can give it my gut, right? Okay. So my gut was when they hired Mike Riley, my gut said no.
Yeah.
And nothing against Mike Riley. I just didn't feel
Western
good
Camp said he had to Google him.
Yeah, I mean, that's bad. It's bad, right? We all kind of did. We're like, what?
Mike Riley?
I had to Chargers coach from 20 years ago or something. And it was with the Big Ben,
right?
The Big Ben connection. But I liked it. The Mickey Joseph, I really liked the Mickey Joseph. And the Raiola, I don't know much about him other than I remember the name because he's
Wisconsin.
He's Dominic's brother, and I remember him going to Wisconsin too. But he's been at the Bears for 3-4 years.
Right.
So
well, let's get into. You want to talk about Whipple first? I don't know if this can
hit it.
Oh,
what's happening?
This song takes too long to build up to it. There's a lot of songs with whip. We chose.
You were gonna choose.
I was gonna choose. Is it Devo? Whip it good.
Whip it good. But
we went jazz band. Wait for it. How about this for production?
Yep. And if anybody knows how the song actually goes, we will want you to hear the whole thing. So. We are high class here.
Oh, I thought they came there, Dave.
No, it takes a long time to get to it.
I love these bands. How many motherfucking people are in the jazz band?
Hey, let me just say something. Everybody's got a microphone.
Earth, Wind, and Fire jazz band. They were like, can we get 32 people in the
you
group.
gotta love it though.
It takes a lot of people to come with a track like that.
They make
but I
good
hope
music.
Whipple, like anytime he walks into a room or does anything, like next year at Memorial Stadium, when there's a touchdown in the red zone,
And it was a great call.
I'm all for it. Okay. But okay, so Whipple, Super Bowl champ.
let it whip.
Super Bowl champ with the Steelers. He won a Division II national title. He's, I think, 64 years old, grizzled veteran. He was a UMass head coach, was the Pitt offensive coordinator. Pitt this season, they averaged 43 points per game, which is third nationally. They got their quarterback, Kenny Pickett, who is a Heisman finalist, who put up outstanding numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to like in there. I also like that, he's an older veteran guy that I think can two things. He can help mentor Frost, and I think a guy like Whipple is someone that Frost can feel comfortable taking off his whistle, like, you wear it now. Like,
Boy, it'd be the headset, Nick, not the whistle. He's the head coach, so he needs the whistle.
have a coronation ceremony in
Give
Frost.
him the play calling sheet. Yeah, you're like, here's my whistle. I will no longer be on the field. Like, he's not going up in like the like crow's nest up top. Like, where's Coach Frost? There he is. He's up there. He never comes down.
So it's not. So he'd be handing him the play sheet.
So Scott Frost is still going to coach, Nick.
Right.
Wait, come again.
But whether he's handing him the play sheet, the headset.
Why did your brain go to whistle? Oh, man.
Whatever.
It is my whistle. I will never blow it again.
It is yours to blow. Blow it good.
Now. I'll never blow this whistle.
I always appreciated every blow of the whistle. It is yours now.
Let's whip.
Okay, but I guess what I was trying to say is you can hand him the keys to the offense and say,
this
go.
Guy's got the cred. I mean,
yes.
Not only has he been a head coach in his team, and I love the fact he's been a head coach for a team that won a national title. I don't care if it's
totally,
it's not.
It's all relative.
You know how hard it is to win anything,
right?
That's why, I have so much respect to anybody that can win on any level. If it's high school, if it's D2, whatever, it's still winning, right? And then he's got the Big Ben Super Bowl. Like when he was coaching Big Ben, he won a Super Bowl.
Think about that.
It's still Big Ben, but like you get to see things at the highest level, and that to me is at a high level in a very good league. I like this hire for that fact. This is a veteran. Like you said, he'll bring sort of like old wisdom,
right?
That I think will go a long way with Frost. It seems like he's a very detailed guy. The paper said he has a very thorough preparation system or whatever. And I don't know. I think this is going to be good. I felt good about it. My gut said this is good. I don't know enough about Whipple to feel like totally confident yet. I got to see him, in action, but
I like it on paper a lot.
On paper, my gut said I like it.
Totally. And because I've always wondered what it's like for Frost, where I've liked the makeup of his staff, but there probably isn't very many people that he can go. There's a difference. Like you can go pick Ron Brown's brain, but Ron's never been a head coach. Everything's different when you are the head coach. Yeah. And the fact that now Frost has someone else that has sat in that chair, blown that whistle, that he has passed on to him.
The whistle of a coach.
The whistle of a coach. But you have someone in the building that you can bounce stuff off of. Hey, how did you handle this? What do you and maybe he come and say, hey, just throwing this out there. When I was at UMass or whatever, we did it like this. Well, all that stuff makes a difference. So I like that he can mentor Frost. I like that he's got the cred to totally run the show. And then the fact that whenever you can have like, hey, my quarterback, just look at these numbers and this dude's a Heisman finalist.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can help lure a transfer portal quarterback.
That's the other part. Like between Mickey Joseph and Whipple,
yeah,
they got some recruiting cred right now. So I mean,
Totally.
Whipple, when it comes to working with quarterbacks, you know how that thing works. Like it's not like other positions. Like these quarterback guys, like they just have like, it's a different world. Like if you're a quarterback guy, the people like these quarterbacks out there, they know the handful of 10 or 20 guys in the country that are like the guys. And this guy seemingly is now one of them, right? Because his guy is Heisman. Like, so now like he's got a good chance of getting good quarterbacks.
Well, and I don't know. I think the most powerful thing in recruiting is not which credibility, all that stuff is proof of concept. When you have a success story, like the fact that Whipple could go sit in the living room or call Kenny Pickett film, you could, all the things that Kenny Pickett did, we're going to put you in those spots. Like your recruiting was a little different because of the Nebraska ties, all that stuff. But one of the things that for me, like when I was getting recruited, was I wanted to be able to look at the team and a specific player and see if I could be that.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I was playing, I was like, I watched Jeff Boschee, I watched Kirk Heinrich, and I was like, I kind of fit that.
Yeah.
Like I could be that,
for sure.
and I watched Creighton and you're like, okay, I fit some of the way they do things. Like, I think that also makes a difference is where I guess what I'm saying is the sales for Whipple is easy, where it's like, man, listen what we did with Kenny Pickett. We're going to put you in this exact same system and we're going to do all the things that allowed Pickett to explode.
Okay. And I got to confess, I didn't watch one Pitt game in the last 3 years. So I've only
watched highlights of Pickett.
I haven't seen like what this offense actually looks like. I really haven't. So but I saw, was it 500 yards a game they're averaging this year?
Yeah, it was something like that.
It's a big number. It was like, I think it was third in college football, 500 plus yards a game. I mean, that's incredible. That's awesome. So I would love to see kind of what their offense looks like.
Well, and I wonder if it's going to be completely the same, if there's going to be a blending of like, I'd imagine Frost and Whipple will get together and kind of like mesh some
terminology. I think is the big thing, and then kind of how the line blocks will be another part of it too. Because like I mean, we've been very like zone oriented, and like the more we, I think you go towards like what we call base blocking, which is like true like when you see like power plays and like down, like that's different than true like zone. So we'll see kind of how much the philosophy in the offensive line changes.
Because it's a wholesale thing
with Whipple and Raiola, right? Like that will be, something to keep your eye on.
Other thing that's one more good thing, and then we'll get to if I have to conjure up a concern.
Yeah.
3 years. Well, first of all, red zone touchdown percentage this season ranked 19th nationally. Nebraska has been atrocious in the red zone. So Whipple, they've been good in the red zone. And then in his 3 years at Pitt, red zone touchdown passing, 3 years at Pitt, 41 touchdown passes in the red zone, only 2 interceptions. During that time for Nebraska, they have 14 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
I'll tell you.
Think about that.
I'll tell you something.
So, I mean, again, Frost's offense, and granted, they moved the ball, they put up yards, they just couldn't seal the deal when they got in the red zone. Even just bringing a guy that has a great red zone feel is going to make a big difference too on a variety of fronts. If there had to be some concern, I would say he's been a guy that's been more pass heavy. It's not like airing it out, 65 times a game. It's not like that, but this is courtesy of John Bishop, who ran some of these numbers. These are, Nebraska's ran the ball about 60% of the time this past season. Past 8 years with Whipple as a head coach and an offensive coordinator, these were the percentages of run plays. 44%, 44%, 45%, 48%, 49%, 46%, 47%, 48%. So he's been more, I mean, it's still about 50-50, which is fine, but nevertheless, I think he's not this isn't like a go run it down your throat kind of a thing either.
It doesn't feel like a power run game higher, does it? Like this feels like we just we just got one of the most seasoned passing offensive coordinators that's hot right now in college football. Like that's what it feels like.
And the numbers kind of bear that out.
And the numbers bear it out. Now I think this is where I'm not going to trash it till I see what happens.
Agreed.
Right?
I'm just trying to conjure up a concern.
Half of the battle is, can you get the guys? And if this guy can help you get the guys and execute and score points, I don't really care if he can do it with passing. I don't really care.
I don't either.
The issue is, I think we've all been like, we've all kind of had in our mind, maybe, do we need to go to something different, right? Do we need a full scale change in philosophy, power run? I mean, people have been talking about the power run for a couple of years. And so I don't know. I don't know if that's like, okay, we have to do, that's the only way to do it. But, like I said, I just don't know. It doesn't look like they're trending towards that any more than they were. But we also had a lot of success throwing it the last couple of games.
The one thing I've been thinking about, as you know, there's been this like couple of week period where there hasn't been anyone hired, and so you kind of go crazy thinking about a bunch of different things. I don't know if I ever really bought. Remember, for a while it was like Jerry Kill. It's going to be Jerry Killer. This army guy is going to come, and it's going to be. A part of me felt like, okay, if Scott Frost, think about it from his perspective, like he understands the situation. This is kind of a 1-year thing. You got to go get it done now, or it's maybe not going to work out. And in that sort of scenario, I find it hard to believe, like, Frost, if he's going to go down, I think he's going to go down running the philosophy that he knows best and got him to this point. You know, like, what you don't want to do is try to become something you're not. If maybe Frost isn't necessarily a guy that wants to just, and that's a hard shift to make like that. And so I guess for me, I've always kind of felt like this was going to be more of the hire, that it was going to be more of someone that shares a philosophical style vision to Frost than all of a sudden it's going to be, huddling up, off tackle, huddle up, true option. Like
the Coastal Carolina was like very
Billy Corn.
It's very comparable to our current state of our offense this year. I thought that was the only thing that would but then it's also like, well, does that make sense to do? Other than you want continuity almost. But to me, it sounds like this hire, it's like it's giving somebody that does kind of what, like you said, what Frost wants to do, is still attack with the passing game and still be spread. And this is a guy with some seasoning that can do it. And Frost is going to step away and sort of like CEO it. But like, it's not going to be the full sale change.
Again, I hope people, I don't have enough information to know exactly what this is ultimately going to look like. I'm just going off of the numbers, but certainly we're not suggesting this is going to be, Nebraska's going to be throwing the ball 67 times a game next year. But I think if for some people thought there was going to be this power run game coming to Lincoln, I don't think that's the case. Overall, I like it.
Yeah. It's just like, there's a few teams like Minnesota, Iowa,
everybody in the
Wisconsin.
West.
They it's too tight. It's this it's just like
ball control,
play actions, throw it to your tight ends. Like it is truly just a philosophy. You play defense, play special teams, and that's how you win games, right? You don't lose them. And like, I just don't know that we're fully, that's just not Scott's way of wanting to do it.
Right. Anything we're missing on Whipple? Or you want to move on to Mickey?
Let's go to Mickey.
Mickey Joseph is going to be the wide receiver coach, the associate head coach, and I believe he got the recruiting coordinator title as well. First of all, he's a former player, which is only a good thing.
He knows Nebraska.
He knows Nebraska, and not say you care in a different way. It's not that Scott Frost or Barrett Ruud didn't care about Central Florida and give it everything they had, but it's just different. It just is.
It's your alma mater. It's like, Mickey went through the battles here. He has love for the fans, and the fans have love for him already. And when you're out there selling this, he can say, look,
dude, I lived it.
I came from Louisiana. I lived it. I was a starting quarterback for Nebraska. It's amazing. Trust me.
Right.
He lived it. It's a different message.
Totally. So I think that's first thing I want to write down was that's only a good thing.
Yeah.
The other thing, obviously, is recruiting. I mean, that's what the main thing with this guy is a big time recruiter. Whether it's Jamar Chase, all the different guys that that LSU team with Burrow, that was one of the most electric every Saturday offenses you've ever seen in your life. And Mickey Joseph, he was a big part in recruiting and was on staff for that.
Yeah.
So,
he got Jamar Chase too. That's the thing is when you go get one of the top 10 guys in the country, I don't think people understand how competitive that actually is. That is if you ever worked in a sales job and it's like the account of the account that you've never got, it's like that. Times, but on a national stage where people are watching you, it's hard to do. And it's to get a guy that changes a program like that guy did, now he's first round pick playing with Joe Burrow. It's a program changing type of get. And we haven't had anybody here do that.
That's the thing. Just
in 20 years,
dumb it down on a simple level. Exactly where you were going with that. Nebraska hasn't had a Jamar Chase.
I think,
you'd go
Sue's the last guy.
From the offensive. I'm just going from the offensive side of the ball. You haven't had the equivalent. The last guy that was truly a transcendent.
Lawrence
Phillips, Eric Crouch.
Crouch was an Omaha guy. That's just that was different.
Amir Abdullah was good.
Amir was a 3-star. I'm talking the guy that
the guy.
Yeah.
And that then came on and had the career to back it up. Nebraska has had that guy, and Nebraska just needs more elite, difference-making skill guys.
Yeah, we do.
And Mickey Joseph, that's as much as the Nebraska has a litany of issues. On one of those issues you write down is they don't have enough difference-making skill guys.
Yeah,
and he can help with that.
Yeah, I think we look at recruiting. And I think, to me, if you just said we hired Scott Frost after what they did at UCF, I thought we were going to be a slam dunk presence in Florida. I think probably our biggest failure is that staff's failure to recruit Florida.
Right.
For whatever they did and the ties they had, they just weren't able to do it.
Or they got the wrong, I don't want to say the wrong guys, but the guys they did get.
Well, they got guys that they either didn't pan out or they left.
Right.
It was bizarre how we just didn't.
That didn't pay off.
Yeah, we didn't pay off there. So now it's almost we'll still recruit that Florida some. We've done a decent job in Georgia. We've gotten a couple players there. But Mickey Joseph's going to give us a chance in especially Louisiana. That's his bread and butter. It's just it's tapping into the vein of something, right?
Yes.
He's got the vein of Louisiana, and that gives us a chance to win in a good recruiting ground that we just missed. I think we totally whiffed Florida for 3-4 years, and this is a new opportunity to sort of go, okay, can we plant our flag somewhere else?
Well, yeah, I think there was a window too of Scott Frost was the hottest name in football, and yet and that window was open and it shut, and they didn't get enough for it. But I think bringing in Mickey Joseph, having the presence of Mark Whipple, opens a different kind of window in the moment. And not only can Mickey Joseph recruit Louisiana, he can recruit LSU players, LSU commits that because they're who knows if they want some of these guys. I know they've been on a couple of whether it's running, I think it's a running back and a wide receiver commit to LSU, whether they want to go for Brian Kelly or not. So, and then the biggest thing is this Miles Brennan, this LSU quarterback that's in the transfer portal, that Nebraska is reportedly really in on this dude hard, to the point where Nebraska we're recording this on what is today? Thursday. It's almost 5:00.
Yeah.
But Nebraska was going to bring in an Akron quarterback, and that went away, which makes you wonder, well, maybe by the time we post this, maybe there's some news or whatever. But So it's not, I guess the reason I bring that up is it's not just the high school ties.
It's LSU.
It's LSU ties on a variety of fronts. And because that staff is in flux, if you can pluck a handful of LSU commits and LSU players and get them to come to Lincoln.
Yeah. Well, and even Whipple. So you got LSU and you got Whipple. Now with this transfer portal, it's not just this year. It's the next 2 years or so, 3 years. These guys have guys they recruited that may or may not now jump in the portal. So you got 2 more schools that you can kind of be like,
you can pluck from a little
bit.
I
mean, and Mickey and Whipple are guys that they had dudes under them that and dudes they recruited that, that will trust them and want to come play for them. So
it's like what happened at a different level of what, like when Noah Vedral followed Frost to Lincoln. Like,
no doubt.
There's maybe some player at Pitt that's like, I want to go. I want to play in Whipple's offense.
All we need is one or two a year from those schools, and it's a win for us.
Right. So, former player, great thing. Recruiting, guy's track record is one of the best. He's one of the best recruiters in the country.
Yeah.
Great ties to an area that Nebraska needs to have ties into. Great ties to a program at LSU that they can maybe go, wet bandits. Scour through and take some toys out of LSU's locker room. I don't really see any negatives with Mickey Joseph. Like
none.
I
guess we haven't really talked about how good of a coach he is, but to me, it's like I look at our receiver position for 4 years. I'm like, look, there's nothing that happened here that I feel like the standard he has to beat is not that high. So at this point, I think. Looking what he did at LSU, I just assume it's going to be an improvement, just in terms of actual on the field coaching.
Totally.
Let alone recruiting, I guarantee will be better.
So I feel great about Mickey Joseph.
Yeah.
Missing anything? You want to go to Raiola?
Let's go to Raiola.
Donovan Raiola, going to be the offensive line coach. He was a guy that was obviously Dominic Raiola. We said it, his brother. He was a starting offensive lineman in Wisconsin. He was honorable mention All Big Ten a few times. He was also a captain on the team at Wisconsin. He was a Notre Dame graduate assistant for a few years. He's been the Bears assistant offensive line coach. So he's young, hasn't really recruited, but great family bloodlines. I think when he obviously was a very successful player at Wisconsin. Yeah. And anytime I think you can kind of have that NFL tag with you, that's a good thing as well.
What's interesting about this hire is that he wasn't a full-time coach ever. He was a full-time assistant, right?
That's why it makes it hard to be even I don't know how to view this.
I think there must be a lot of trust there between Raiola, the Raiolas and Frost. Frost obviously played with Dominic.
Right.
And knows him well. And I think obviously this guy must be pretty dang good. He must be good enough or impressive enough that if you haven't even had the full experience of being like, hey, I'm a true offensive line coach for college or pro, to get that job. Because it's a big job. It's a big step. So, you see what they're getting with Whipple and Mickey Joseph. They're hiring big time guys. So that's really a compliment to Raiola that he got that spot when I know they were talking to the guy from Notre Dame, the Notre Dame's offensive line coach. So they picked him over the Notre Dame coach, which tells you that's not a joke. Notre Dame's been sending dudes to the pros at that position group for quite a while.
So in some ways, I got to give Frost the benefit of the doubt that he sees something in Donovan Raiola that blew him away enough for it to be a guy that, if you just look at their resume, it's a pretty resume with not a lot of experience.
It's not full-time experience. It's kind of odd, actually.
So I think he's the hardest one for me to judge. There's just not a lot to judge.
So there's always a moment where somebody goes from assistant to full-time, right? And that's like you don't know till a couple years later how, like, if you're right or you're wrong there. It's a lot easier when when you hire somebody that's been established as a full-time coach.
But
I
someone's
just feel
got to
like
get a shot somewhere.
everybody has to. To me, it's like, it doesn't matter to me if he's been a full-time coach or not, if he's that good. Because if somebody's that good, you hire him. Now, if you don't know he's that good, that's where it's like, well, what are you doing then?
Well,
right? Then you take the proven.
There's a pretty good example. Your brother had never been he had been on staff at Central Florida, but wasn't a full-time guy that was recruiting, running meetings, had his own position group on the field every day. Like, he hadn't done that either. And look at the job that he's done so far. That room with Reimer and Hendrich has really performed at a high level. And so sometimes it's like, you either got it or you don't. And if you see something in someone, you can pull the trigger. Sure, it's nice to have you just Wikipedia. Whipple's like Wikipedia is super long with all this stuff. Sure, it'd be nice to be able to have a bunch of stuff like that, but that's not how it always works out.
No, and the unique part is not that this is his first job, because that happens all the time. Everybody's got to get their first job at some point. What's unique is that it's not somebody that was formerly under Frost.
Right.
That's what's unique. There is the Raiola connection that no doubt is a big part of this, right? But it's also like, just because somebody's got a resume doesn't mean they're a good coach. We've all been around a lot of coaches that they've had 20 jobs in 20 years, and they can say I've got a lot of experience, and they've been bad at a lot of places.
That's
so
it.
I'm not against like somebody without like the tenure if they're really good.
Totally agree.
If you see greatness in them, it doesn't matter. But this is a unique hire. It's unique in the sense of it's from the pros, but not a starting. I mean, not a full the main line coach. It's the assistant.
Right. The other thing, not that you never know how they're thinking with these things, but you've seen things like this happen all the time in college recruiting. Don't forget Dylan Raiola.
Nick, that has nothing to do with this.
I mean,
Nick, that would never play a part in this.
I mean, I saw it.
Hey.
I mean, you see it all the time, right? I mean, I knew when I was leaving Kansas, we brought in Mario Chalmers, and then we were hiring Mario Chalmers' dad. And I remember being like, this Mario guy must be pretty good.
Wow.
And Mario ended up hitting the biggest shot in Kansas basketball history to send it in OT in the 2008 national title game. But it's got to be something. I mean,
so a long time ago, I tried to hire this lady. I forget her first name, but her last name was James, and she's from Akron, Ohio. She was just a great employee. I needed her specifically.
You needed.
Turned out her son became a great basketball player.
That's right.
And he didn't come to college. Yeah. He didn't go to college at all.
Didn't work out.
She was going to be a great hire.
Yes.
Nothing to do with her son.
Nothing to do with her son. Its first name was L. Larry James, LeBron James. I don't know what it was. But the bottom line is, if you don't know Dylan Raiola, this is Donovan's nephew. Is Dominic Raiola's son. He's a 4-star recruit. He's a top 50 player. He's got offers from Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas A&M, and obviously Nebraska as well. When this announcement got made, there was a certain someone by the name of Dylan Raiola that tweeted about it.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I think it's doing
it's like a bonus.
It's doing Dominic an insult to say he only gets the job. It's just, I think this is one of those things, like, it's not the cake, it's the icing.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's like the cake is the guy must be a good coach,
right?
Is what I'm assuming, and it just is nice that his nephew's a good player. It's just one extra thing.
It just adds, when
you
don't
hire the guy for that. So we shouldn't say that that's why he got hired, because
I'm not certainly
suggesting and that's what I'm saying. I don't want to, even though I'm talking my noise.
No. But that's it's one of those things that when you're pro con in this thing, if you're Frost, you go. Well, I mean, a part of the pros that have not necessarily anything to do with the true coaching acumen, you go, his brother, one of the all-time greats here.
Yeah.
There's bloodlines there. Speaking of bloodlines, Dylan would be a potentially program-changing quarterback to land. So I'm just it's worth throwing.
If my nephew, I have a couple of them now. Yeah. If any of my nephews can play ball and I can get a coaching job somewhere, I'm going to try to recruit them.
Yes.
I'm going to say, come play for me.
Right. Because now you just made that, ultimately, let's say things work out with Raiola. I mean, when Dylan Raiola is choosing where he wants to go, you're going to have to say no to your dad's alma mater, where he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
Your uncle is on staff there. That's just.
Well, here's where it helps. I don't think, if the kid doesn't want to
talking about Dylan Raiola,
but if the kid doesn't want to go here, and first of all, I hope the kid's as good as he's been made out to. I don't even know how good he is.
I don't either.
I think it's just, this is like,
when you got Bama and Ohio State offers, to me, those are like,
it's usually,
it's like Costanza when he had the picture of the supermodel and he could show other supermodels. Like, I used to date her, and they're like, "Oh, you want to buy me a drink?" Like, to me, it's like you get a Bama and Ohio State offer as a quarterback. It's like,
it's pretty good.
That's
those guys do their homework.
Yeah, they do. They're not taking with anybody.
It's like a stock tip, right? Like if you know a certain person that you just totally trust and they're buying,
you buy.
Don't even worry about it. Don't even just buy that too.
So we spent too much time in this. I didn't mean to denigrate Donovan, but I'm just saying it's a part. Again, it's a pro.
Donovan? I said Dominic.
I've been shown it's Dominic. This is Donovan. Where Nebraska is hiring Donovan Raiola.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got confused.
So there's Donovan, Dominic, and Dylan.
Dylan, that's right. I was thinking Dylan and
I feel like Matt Damon and Good Hunting, like Ricky, Bobby, Tommy,
Ricky,
Billy,
Tommy, Timmy.
Say again.
Say again.
Ricky, Bobby, Tommy, Billy, Willie, Tommy,
and me.
I got Dylan, Dominic, Donovan. But
Dylan, Dominic, Donovan.
Dylan, Dominic, Donovan.
Dilly, Dobby, Dongy.
Dylan, Dominic, Donovan. Dennis ready. We're having duck.
We're having duck and
Dylan, Donovan, Dominic. I hope you're not drunk. Dinner's ready. We're having duck. It's not even a joke. I know that's funny.
You think it's great? Oh, that's great.
The Raiola mom calling him for dinner. It's got to be a good time. Anything we're missing on Donovan Raiola?
God, I guess not.
Oh, God. So there you go. I guess now the question becomes, there's a few things I want to hit before we get out of here. Still got a running backs coach situation. It sounds like things are trending towards it being Ron Brown. Ron Brown's been out on the recruiting trail. We'll see on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's also that special teams coordinator situation looming out there. There are various reports from people that Frost has a desire to want to hire a full-time special teams coordinator. Now, how the numbers work with that is to be determined. You only have 10 assistant coaching spots. And if you bring on a running backs coach and a special teams coordinator, something's got to give. We'll see what all that ends up looking like. So there's still a little, it's not like this staff is completely finished yet. There's still a few things that need to happen. One of the few other things and maybe this is happening and maybe it happened behind the scenes or whatever. I'm
thinking about the Dylans and the Dominics and the
Dylan, Donovan, Dominic, we're having duck. Don't tell me you're drunk. Dinner time. So stupid. Okay, but one of the things that is good is I was curious if there'd be some people trying to pluck away some Nebraska defensive coaches. Maybe this has happened and they got Mutombo'd by Fisher and whoever, but you haven't really heard of anybody trying to hire away those guys. There's certainly the carousel is still spinning, but that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think those. I kind of had that thought too, but I think in the end, the teams that win the most get the most coaches plucked. It's sort of like the way it is. Same reason,
totally agree.
Same way if you look at the NFL draft, the teams that win the most, more guys get drafted. It's just it's. We lost too many games for us to sort of be like the team. We got to get anybody from Nebraska staff right now. Even though, I think if you were to look at what that staff did on the defensive side of the ball, they did a pretty dang good job.
Right.
But if we win 8 games, they do the exact same thing. I bet you there's more interest.
It's a great point because right now, for as much as we all felt like Eric Chenander did a great job this year, it's not a great press conference to be like, he went 3-9. Here's our new head coach, Eric Chenander.
It's wins and losses.
And so you're right.
If we win 11 games, Chin's has a chance for head coaching jobs.
Yes.
That's how this thing works.
Or even you go 8-4, you have a chance to maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like the level, like if you go undefeated, your D coordinator's got a chance at a good job around the country.
Right.
If you go 8-4, he has maybe a lower tier job, right?
Totally.
Then he's like, well, the Akron job, it's like it's that like it's the different levels.
And so you're right.
There.
So the winning probably curtailed any sort of people sniffing around, which is good because you want to keep as much continuity on the one side of the ball that was working. Speaking of continuity, there's been some players that have declared for the NFL draft or hit the portal. Adrian Martinez, Austin Allen, we already knew about. Damian Daniels, which that one was like, I don't know why that one hurt
it's
me.
Our boy Snacks.
Snacks. It's like, you want more snacks? All you got to do is ask.
Were we not feeding this kid?
Don't feel good. I mean, was he complaining about his snack?
Did we take away his snacks?
I don't understand how Snacks didn't get enough snacks around here.
I actually, that one confuses me a little bit. Not in the sense of like, I wish him the best. I really thought he did a great job this year. I'm only saying because I want him back. Like selfishly, I want him to come back.
Well, that's it.
And I don't know that it wouldn't be good for him to have another year like where he gets to kind of be the guy and maybe improve his chances. Because I didn't necessarily think when I look at him like, oh, this dude's like NFL body, NFL.
I think he's a hell of a player. I don't know. I don't think he's a first, second, third round guy, but I Todd McShay or
I don't know.
Kuiper.
I think another year. I think he's got his body better
now.
Another year getting his body right, and just I think that might have helped him. Maybe he feels like this is his best moment to make a jump, and so you got to give it to him. So anybody that's played their heart out for us, I totally like to to back,
that's why it's a weird thing.
But I'm selfishly I want him to come back.
Me too.
And he didn't come.
Well, that's because all these guys. I mean, Martinez. We've had a bunch of conversations about that. I think this is. I anticipated this.
I did too.
And it's weird because like I think someone puts a gun to my head and says you like. Do you want Martinez to stay or leave? I feel like I would say like he probably needs to leave. But I also at the same time, like I have the extreme confidence in him going and like killing it somewhere else. So it's weird. Like I don't have
him
like
to be in like my little this is our room of complete backupness. We're going to put Adrian Martinez in here. We're going to close the door. He doesn't get to be with anyone else. But if we decide that for some reason we want him in August 3rd, we can have him.
Like you can like
he's like we put him on like layaway.
He's like put him on layaway. He's Nebraska's, but no one else gets to play him a quarterback. It's a weird thing, but you understand what I'm saying? Where I'm like, yeah, he probably needed to have someone else.
I don't want him to go to Minnesota because I watched him after that Minnesota game, and PJ Fleck really showed too much love to him. I was like, don't you show that much love to him?
Touch him.
And then like if he went to like Minnesota next year, I'd be so pissed off.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think
everybody's saying K-State.
K-State, his girlfriend goes there, but I don't know. At the same time, like. Yeah. You've already done the long distance thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think my advice to Adrian would be like, make this decision based on football, not necessarily your girlfriend right now. You've already done.
He went to Cal and he's from Northern California.
From Fresno. So that's why I think he's either, when you transfer, a lot of transfers, Wandale goes to Kentucky. I came back here. Lots of times you gravitate closer to home. I think he ends up somewhere in the Pac-12 or the West Coast.
I think that's probably a better fit for him too.
Right. But it's a weird thing. But nevertheless, that Cam Taylor-Britt's another guy. And then there's also reports that Cam Jurgens, O'Doyle.
Oh, our boy O'Doyle needs to stay. O'Doyle needs to stay because he could be a freaking like second round draft pick.
That's what I think.
He is such a specimen physically. I think maybe, especially Raiola was a center, so maybe that's some good juju there. Like they can.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to get in a room and it's just going to be a lot of O'Doyle in each other.
My name's O'Doyle. What's your name? O'Doyle.
Wait a minute. You're O'Doyle?
O'Doyle rules.
I'm O'Doyle rules.
O'Doyle rules.
That's what O'Doyle rules.
That's all they
He
can
got
say.
one personal foul in Oklahoma, and he got multiple. He woke up that day in Norman and he had watched Billy Madison the night before, and he woke up feeling some type of way about.
He was 50 yards down the field.
Who didn't love that
doiling
play?
Some people.
He was 50. He pulled on a screen 55 yards down the field. And doiled a guy.
I loved it, and I will back that play.
There's some NFL teams that when they're watching that, they're like drooling over that.
NFL line coaches aren't mad at that play.
No.
They don't.
The fact that he's got a little Doyle in him, I think they like it.
God, you can't. Hey, there's like, you're either born with a Doyle or you're not.
He was
and if you're not, you can't get it. You can't artificially make a Doyle. It is born in. With Doyle rules.
But the bottom line is, and then Cam Taylor Britt, Cam Jurgens, Damian Daniels, Austin Allen, Adrian Martinez. Like, the one thing I was thinking about is like, and sometimes I think we talk out of both sides of our mouth, like, you need more talent. But then I'm like, Nebraska needs to go into the portal and find dudes that are just as good or better than Adrian Martinez, Austin Allen, Damian Daniels, Cam Taylor Britt, and maybe even Cam Jurgens. That's not the easiest thing to do in the world.
No, Jurgens.
I hope Jurgens can. Hopefully, Raiola can.
Allen's an all Big Ten tight end, but the good thing is we got Vokalek. Before we get ahead of ourselves, Fedoni's still got a lot of potential apparently, but
don't you ever poo-poo Fedoni?
I won't. We're all in on it, but I always forget, like, Austin Allen is a all Big Ten tight end now, so it's like it's hard.
He became the best offense.
He became our best guy. Yeah. So. But really, it's like we need DBs, man. We need corners and safeties because they missed for years on those.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the guys we got now are like ready to like dominate. So we need somebody to help out there. And then we need a pass rusher, and we need maybe another offensive lineman, running back, and a receiver. I mean,
there's a lot of needs that you got to go in the portal and get, but it's just, because there's no doubt you got to go bring in some elite dudes in the portal. But man, think how much it'd make a big difference if you knew Austin Allen, Damian Daniels, Cam Taylor Britt, all those guys were coming back.
That would be nice.
That would be very nice. So we'll see. And then Phil Darius Payne, I think, entered the portal, but I don't.
He kind of was a non-factor second part of the year. I don't know really what happened with him.
I don't either. But
I would like to see him stay just because we're thin at that position. But that tells you more like if he's leaving, we need somebody else on the outside that can rush the passer.
I do wonder what the timeline is. Nebraska is not necessarily up against it. We already talked about it with the December 15th early signing day thing. But I wonder what the timeline is for the portal, because
I think most of the time these guys want to be there by the start of the
winter conditioning stuff.
Yeah.
So, things are going to move.
I think the next 2 weeks, it's all going down.
Right. Hopefully you get a difference. You got to find the quarterback's number one.
Yeah. Quarterback to work with Whipple.
They might even bring in like a few quarterbacks.
I think if you can, you do. At this point, Smothers and
hands off my hiney.
Yeah, I don't know where they would stand with Whipple. So it's almost like they're trying out again,
right? Because you wonder if they want to stay. I don't know.
I think Harburg stays. I think it's more the Smothers. If Whipple's going to change things up, and it's a little bit more pro style, that would fit Harburg better than it would Smothers.
Smothers is more of a runner. It seemed like it to me.
He seemed more of like a Milton type.
Yeah.
Where it's like run, throw, but like definitely not just like pocket passer.
Right.
So we'll see with Smothers how that fits. But man, there's about 4 or 5 positions they need to fill.
How would you rank? So we'd go quarterback 1 in terms of most important. Would you put pass rusher 2?
Pass rusher and or running back. Yeah. Pass rusher, running back, maybe
running back,
O-line, receiver, and DB.
I think I'd go quarterback 1. You probably need a pass rusher. If you can find
a good one, but it's like good luck. It's that everybody's
going to be on them.
Yeah.
So the reality of finding Aiden Hutchinson in the portal is probably pretty low.
No, you're not getting that. But
But running back, I feel like you can go find a difference-making running back, a difference-making wide receiver in the portal. You can find a difference-making quarterback, running back, and wide receiver in the portal.
Yeah.
And then hope that you can strike gold with some of those other guys.
Yeah, I saw this one guy we offered, and like he's a good rush in from like a smaller school, and like he had a good year. He was like all conference, and I think he's trying to make the jump from smaller to D1 to bigger. And I think he had 30 offers in his first day. Like
Crazy.
It is a different world than the portal was 2 years ago.
Right.
It's like we don't think about it the same. Right. So so now it's like a different kind of recruiting.
Totally different. So we'll see what ends up happening, but things I would think are going to move pretty quick now for the transfer portal. But I know I'll have my eyes on this quarterback situation.
Here's what's hard about the transfer portal that's a little different than high school recruiting is if it's a good transfer portal player and you tell them to come here, like you're pretty much saying the guy there ain't our guy.
Right.
Whereas high school kids, it's not necessarily that, but you kind of like with these guys, like if you're coming to play.
Right.
Is what I gather. So there's a little bit of that, like
that awkward writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Of like what we're saying. Whipple goes and handpicks a quarterback in the portal. The writing's on the wall to Logan Smothers.
Smothers is going, ooh, I don't like that.
And even with the running backs, now none of these running backs can lay claim that this is my position, but same thing. If Mickey Joseph brings in, a big time running back, he's probably coming into play.
Yeah, but I think my tune has changed where I think we were way too concerned with people's feelings.
Oh,
like, I mean, we turned down Joe Burrow.
Right.
We turned him down flat because we didn't want to, we felt was our guy.
And
we didn't want to rock that boat.
Right. Now, to me, in this scenario, 1 year, and that's when we'll wrap it up with this. And we have all offseason to talk about expectations for next year, because we talk about, hey man, this is a 1 year thing, you got to get it right. Well, what does that really even mean? The thing that is frustrating is you would kind of like to see what this would look like, and there's always going to be that thing you can keep telling yourself, like, well, I'd like to see what Whipple, Mickey Joseph, and Raiola look like
in year 3,
in year 2 or 3.
Nick, that's why this happened though. This happened to not go to the full rebuild.
And to me,
I'm fine with that.
Right.
I'd rather see
so
it.
To me, I don't look at next year as like they got to win 10 games and be in the Big Ten title for Frost to keep his job. I think they got to win like 7 games and
Nick, if they win 6, they're fine.
That's what I think. If they win 6 or 7, and it look like it also it's got to look, because if you would have told me before the season they're going to go 3-9, I would have said, oh my God, everybody's fired, right?
Yeah.
But how it looked was different, like than what you would conjure up with. Not all 3-9 seasons are created equal, just like not all. Riley went 9-3 in 2016, and that didn't feel like a 9-3 team. So I guess that's the other thing I've been thinking about. Is like, I want to see what Whipple, Joseph, and Raiola look like with some continuity now.
I think that's. I have confidence that it's because we have. It's like, it's not a full rebuild. It's like, hey, we got like most of the house,
the foundation
built,
there,
and we're just tacking on the new roof in a garage, right? Like that to me is more what this is, which I think we should see positive results faster. So this is similar to my first season in Nebraska was 2003. They fired the whole defensive staff, essentially, and they hired a new offensive coordinator, new running backs. I mean, it was a pretty significant job, but it was still Frank Solich, still the same strength coaches, some of the same coaches around, all the same sport. It was Nebraska, and the only thing new was they pieced in some coaches. Where like when you actually tear it down, like the next year, it feels like something totally different. Like it was still Nebraska with some like improved coaching aspects.
Right.
And it was good for us. It changed things in the right way. The next year was like, guys that were out of water trying to figure out how to coach, who's going to work for me. It's a different scenario.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With a total rebuild. This is still Frost. It's still like there's continuity. The culture stays. It's just the coaches are what's plugged in.
It's a good point. And
it's not a culture rebuild,
right?
A staff across the board rebuild, right?
Well,
Support staff.
We've talked like Michigan and Michigan State for different reasons can be positive examples and optimistic things to look at for next year of like, hey, Mel Tucker was able to scour the portal and find a lot of guys that came in and they had a pretty damn good year.
Yeah.
So you can find the right pieces in the portal and make it work right away. And then Michigan, they fired Don Brown. They made a lot of changes on their staff and they hit the ground running and went up another level.
Yeah.
So I think you have some examples of like, this can, and you talked about it, like when Pelini came in 2003, it changed right away.
It was a positive change. Like,
right.
I'm not saying even like kind of, it was extremely positive. Like he won the hearts and minds. Like
right.
I'm telling you, I still to this day don't know if I've ever had that kind of belief and enthusiasm in a defensive unit that I saw that one year.
Right.
It was amazing. It was a special year and we blew it up. And so I believe that this can work. This sort of piecemealing in the new blood in this offensive staff. I think to me, it makes total sense. I feel pretty good about it.
Me too.
A Huda Media Production.